you have to build the blocks. Each step is simple, but if you go in the wrong order, you don't get one step done the right way, then nothing else is going to work after. So
hey, what's going on, everybody? Joel Irway here, and welcome to another very special episode of Sold with Webinars. And I'm excited because today we have a very, very special guest. It's been a while since I've done one of these. I haven't done a guest interview in quite some time, but today is a very special guest interview. I have Laura Cowan from the 2-Hour Lifestyle Lawyer on our show here today, and Laura has absolutely crushed it with her high ticket course with her coaching program. And I wanted to have her on the podcast, just kind of share her experience, because for me personally, I don't know if you're similar to me, but anytime that like I'm experiencing a new system or about to embark on a new venture, I can listen to the guru, I can listen to the expert all day, but it's really helpful for me to hear the story of other people who are taking the advice and having success. So we're going to take a little step back today. And so I'm not going to preach to you. I'm not going to, be on my soapbox. I'm going to have Laura talk about her offer and talk about her experience, because it's really, really incredible. Laura, welcome to the show.
thanks for having me.
So why don't you give us a little background about, where you're from, what is your day job, right? Because you still have, you're the law offices of Laura Cowan. You're based in, well, I'm about to give your entire background. Why don't you give your background and give us a little,
let me dive in.
Yeah.
So I'm an attorney. And I'm based in New York City. And I've lived in New York since 2000, but I didn't open my law practice until about 2016. And I opened it just a couple of years out of law school, and I do estate planning law. So estate planning is like wills and trusts. So that's the kind of law that I've been doing. And I've been really successful at it. And what I've noticed in the past couple of years, post 2020, everything has changed. I had this really great model for building an estate planning practice pre-2020, and then everything went virtual after 2020. And what I've noticed in the online lawyer forums and things like this is that there's this big group of attorneys who are really interested in taking their practice virtual and adding a practice area that you can do from anywhere, and where you're not tethered to the court or tethered to your office, which before 2020 we really were. I tell people that before 2020, people, we could do estate planning virtually. We had the technology to do it. We certainly had Zoom, but it wasn't what I say socially acceptable to do it. Right? Nobody would hire you to do a will without having met you in person and come to your office. And then every single meeting after that would all have to be in person. And so we were tethered to the office, and that all changed in March 2020. I turned my whole system virtual. And I've noticed this sort of trend among attorneys where they're looking for ways to add a practice area where they can make good money, have their own schedule, and do the work from just about anywhere. So I decided to launch a coaching business just this past summer to meet this demand. And I've been thinking about adding a coaching practice for a while now, but yeah, so that's the backstory. I'm an attorney. I've been doing this since 2016, and now I'm teaching other lawyers how to replicate my success.
So this is your first venture into online business, right? Or have you tried anything in the past? Or give us. Yep, go ahead.
Yeah. This is my first venture, although it has been definitely on my radar because it's such a good business to be in, because I truly believe that everyone has got something to offer. Everyone's got something that they can do, that they can teach, and it's just a matter of dialing it in into an online course. And so it's definitely been on my radar for a long time, the idea of coaching other attorneys. And it's just something that really kind of got up and running as COVID was coming more to an end, and I was seeing this demand in the various lawyer groups that I'm a part of.
Got it. So tell us what happened. You got the idea of okay, hey, I really want to I'm going to move forward. I'm going to launch a coaching business, right? How did you discover us? How did you discover our system, our methodology? How did we get introduced to each other?
Yeah, so I'm so glad to be working with you guys because I had seen your name. I'm a big fan of ClickFunnels and Russell Brunson and Funnel Hacking Live coming up in a couple of weeks, all of that. So I knew that he recommended you, and so what I started with, and I think that I read your book over like the Memorial Day weekend. I remember I read it over the weekend. High ticket courses, right? Is that what it's called? Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so I downloaded that online, or I may have purchased it, but I read it over the weekend, and it really made a lot of sense to me because I like how you spelled out, if you're starting out with the coaching and you don't have any materials or content, start with just making the offer, which is what you teach. And I thought, well, that works because I don't have a course, I don't have materials, I don't have content, but I know I can teach someone this. And so I just started running ads to discovery calls to see, just to get some attorneys on the phone to see if I could start getting some people who wanted me to coach them. And I started my prices lower than I would have, gone to, but I think I sold my first, I read your book and I was like, okay, I'm going to start with the group coaching. I'll start with the one-to-one coaching. I'll kind of dial that in, and then I'll go to group, and then maybe an online course. So I got about 10 attorneys that I was working with one-to-one, which ended up being more than I could handle. But within about a month span of time, the first lawyer who hired me as a coach, the package was $2,500. And within like a month or so, the last lawyer that I took on paid $7,500. So I was able to raise my fees significantly. It's worth every penny, by the way. I should just point out, worth every penny.
Yes. So let me just pause real quick because you kind of gave the abridged version, but I want to step back because if you're listening right now, like I don't think you realize they might miss some of the gold that you just shared. So first of all, we're recording this in early September. You said you read the book over Memorial Day weekend, so end of May. Right. Then you reached out to us and said, hey, listen, I've got this idea. Let's work together. Right. When you booked a call with us, like, was there any hesitancy? Like, were you nervous? Like, what was, kind of your feelings going into that call and making the decision to take the leap of faith of like, okay, like if I'm going in, like, let's do it right.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think I was excited because, and I can't remember how it all played out, but I do remember it seemed like you broke it down into pieces that made a lot of sense. So the first step was working with Jason, getting my offer dialed in. And I thought that makes a lot of sense because I know that you can't, you've got to take it one step at a time. If you don't have a good offer, then you don't want to start spending money and time on other things. So that was the first step. And we worked together, just creating, and we had a couple of sessions, each a few hours long, where like he just asked me about my business and about who I was serving. And it was so valuable because he really pulled out things that I would not have thought of, things that I didn't realize, there's a lot of value in that. I think one of the things that you said in your book is that sometimes you're too close to your own business.
Yeah, we call that the expert's curse. Yep.
Yeah. And I read that and I thought that's absolutely true because when I speak to my business about other people and Jason helped me walk through this, he was able to see things that I wasn't able to see. So I felt like that call, it was just so valuable, that those sessions that I had with him. And in fact, everything that I've built since then has kind of been built off of what we started with. And so that's a big part why it's been so successful.
So we did the offer game plan, like we did the offer call, and then we did a 30-day trial. I was like, okay, hey, like now that we've got the offer, we got to validate it and make sure that the audience actually wants it, right? Because I talk about this all the time. It's like you work with an offer specialist, and like we're going to get as close as we possibly can, but we always need market feedback. Like we always need like they're the ones who are going to tell us if this is good or not, right? And so we started launching your ads. I actually pulled up your report here. It looks like day one we launched was July 18th. And within a couple of days, you started getting your first applications and book calls. And you had your first sale on July 26th. So it says you generated $11,500. You actually had your first 3 sales. Was it 3 sales in one day? Like just all snowballed on one day?
Yes, it must have. It must have. And I think as I started to get better at doing the sales calls, and because I went into this really with the mentality of, I don't remember who said this, but you can make as much money as you want as long as you're able to help other people get what they want, right? And so I've coached 10 clients one-to-one. Now I'm into the group coaching program, but everything I'm doing is based on how can I help other attorneys make money doing estate planning, not working a million hours a week and virtually. Like that is the only outcome that I care about. And so I think when if you can do that, then it's just like they say, you can make as much money as you want. So yeah, so I think that in my sales calls, I really I tried to convey, like, I'm here to help you make money because that's the goal. I'm not shy about saying that.
So you landed your first 10 clients in your first 20 days or somewhere around the first 30 days, right? Because I remember you said we stopped the ads after 20 days because you just couldn't handle the demand, right?
Right. Yeah.
So one of the things that I want to talk about too, like when someone's first starting out and you talk about high ticket offers, there is something really important that happens with confidence, right? It's like, this happened with a lot of my clients. Like if they've never launched a coaching program before, they've never launched, a high ticket offer before, they might have the most valuable offer in the world, but they need to work their way up into the confidence to be able to sell it and fulfill. Like that's like one of the biggest deep limiting beliefs that people have is like, oh, well, okay, like I just have to make sure I can fulfill on this. It's like, you absolutely do. So I love how you talk about, you started at 2,500, then you got confidence, and now it's all the way up to 7,500, for your one-on-one. And now you're scaling down into group. Like that all happened really, really quickly. We're talking in 30 days, you tripled your prices, and now you're opening up your group program, which I think is fantastic. So talk about like that evolution for you. Like how long did it take for you to get the confidence? Like after you got your first sale, like, okay, wow, like this is real. Like when did it really like hit for you that holy cow, like I've got something here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely agree and I sympathize. It is very, very scary saying to someone, I'm going to tell you everything I know. We've got 8 coaching sessions. My fee is 2,500, and they say yes. And you're like, okay, well, now I've got to fulfill because my reputation is extremely important to me. I do not want your money if I cannot help you, and like, period, right? And so what I would say is that you have to start and get those first couple of one-to-one clients and just get going because initially I wanted to start the process with, I'll just do a DIY course and I know my stuff and I'll just put it out there and like not validate the offer and not work with people one-to-one. And that's definitely backwards because I had about 10 clients I was working with one-to-one, and I learned so much from those people. And yeah, initially I was charging less than what I was worth, but in a way, like I learned so much from those first few clients that it didn't matter that I was charging less. And then once your confidence grows and you get better at teaching the material in a way that's effective, then you can raise your fees. But you just, it's like you say in the book, you just have to make the damn offer. The right people are going to say yes to it. And then you've got to get going and just serve the heck out of those people. And now I actually don't really even do one-to-one coaching, or I do, but my fee has increased substantially because now I'm moving to a group format. But you have to get those hard couple of clients out of the way first.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a lot easier.
It does become a lot easier. Yeah. It's building the parachute on the way down. It's like jump out of the plane and then, build the parachute on the way down. It's like, that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make is they think they got to build this elaborate, course, this elaborate coaching program and, got to create all the content first. And it's like, you have to understand your clients just care about results. They care very little about how they're going to get them. Like, that's why they've hired you, right? So, you think they care about how many calls they get. You think they care about how many videos there are. You think they care about what all the checklists and the worksheets and all this other stuff, means. It's like, they don't. Like, if you can serve them on a telephone call, like, yeah, actually your top performers are gonna value that even more. Like, oh, you mean I don't have to watch all these videos? Oh, you mean I don't have to go through all this stuff? Oh, you mean I don't have to show up to all these group coaching calls? You mean I can just ping you whenever I want if I got a quick question? Yeah, I'm in.
I know. And that was what really stopped me before, because I felt like I want to present this perfect image to the world. I want to have this perfect class and all these perfect materials and all this content. And that was what got me stuck before. And I really wish that I hadn't spent as much time being stuck there. Because I realized that you're exactly right, that the students don't care about if you have a pretty membership area or the handouts and the content, as long as you can help them get that result. And you just have to understand, like, I'm in the middle of my first group cohort right now. And I spent a lot of time on the first couple modules. But I told my students, I was very honest. I was like, you guys are my beta group. I have the content. I'm going to teach you everything I know, but I don't really have a syllabus yet because I know it's going to flow based on how the first 1 or 2 sessions go. And that's exactly what has happened. I had it in my mind that I was going to do it in a certain order. And now I've done a couple of sessions and I'm like, no, it needs to happen in this order. And so it's a little bit messy the first time, but you have to go through it. And I think as long as you're honest with people and you say, you guys are my beta group, I'm going to do everything I can to make you succeed. I'm going to give you all of the tools. I'm charging you less. I appreciate your being part of this process. And I want to make sure you succeed, but you have to understand that I'm not going to have, this hasn't been built out. You're helping me with it. And I think as long as you're honest with that, they don't care.
And what also people also don't understand, or what they fail to realize, is that your product champions, they actually, they appreciate, well, number one, they appreciate the honesty, but number two, like, they also appreciate helping be a part of something that's being built. Like, they like being a contributor. They like providing the feedback because they feel somewhat of an ownership of, of helping to make the product better. I wouldn't say that like that's an absolute selling point for why you need to do a beta, but like it's a sub-selling point. Like it's a micro benefit. It's like, no, your beta customers, your beta clients, like, as long as it's upfront and honest, like, the ones who buy in after you explain that to them, like, they're going to be your product champions. Like, they're going to, really be your megaphone. They're going to be, one of your raving fans because they helped you create this, and they got an awesome result, but they helped build this amazing thing that they've experienced. And so I think it's just something that's often overlooked, but can't really experience it until you go through it.
Yeah, I've got a couple of students. I mean, my students are amazing. I'm very lucky with the lawyers that I'm working with, and they've all been just really, really wonderful in implementing all of the tools that I'm giving them. But I've got a couple who've really taken the ball and run with it. And I mean, you're absolutely right. They're so happy to be helping me, which I just think I'm just overwhelmed by that. And of course, I'm so happy to be helping them, and we're developing these long-term relationships. But I think, as long as you're honest with people, they're happy to help and they're excited about it. And it's fine. It's fine that you're just getting started.
Yeah. What would you say was like the biggest aha moment that you had as you've gone through this process over your first 30 days of launching this, right? You've generated tons of appointments. You're taking these sales calls. You're starting to fulfill. You're working with one-on-one clients. You've launched your group program. Like, what are like your top 1 or 2 big takeaways that you've learned throughout this entire process? Could be on sales side, could be on marketing side, could be on fulfillment side. But like, what was 1 or 2 of those big aha moments that you've experienced?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I've noticed is that I know myself, and I like to have everything all planned out, and I want to be able to predict how everything is going to play out. And I think it was, now I'm blanking on the name, but the woman who started Dry Bar, one of her quotes is, you just have to get started. Like, you're not going to know everything, and you're not going to know things until you get started. And so one of my biggest aha moments was when I realized, a lot of the answers aren't going to come until you start actually coaching people. And you can spend all this time thinking about, well, how's it going to work when I'm coaching people one-to-one? But you're not going to get the answers until you actually start coaching people one-to-one. And then it's the same thing with the group course. So many of the answers come through just kind of working your way through the process, as uncomfortable as it is, because it is uncomfortable, and you have to be willing to accept that it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable. But I was just talking to my sister about this, and she's like, it's hard now because you're starting from scratch. It's going to be a lot easier once you've gone through that first group. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that what I've learned is that you can't plan all of this out. You just kind of have to work through it, and then the answers will come to you as you're working through it.
Yeah, it is going to be uncomfortable, and you have to trust. This is where trusting your expertise comes into play. And what I like to tell people is, because they always want to have the product to rely, like they almost feel like their product is the security blanket. It's like, oh, I can at least just rely on that. It's like that's the thing that's least important in the eyes of your client. Like, trust your expertise, because the only thing that they're going to have are questions on the material, or questions on the content, or questions on how to get the result. And at the very least, all they want is just to be able to get that answer. And as long as you are there, you will always be able to provide that answer, and your client will always be happy. They just don't care about videos. They literally don't. Like, people think videos and content are a value add, but it's actually an expense for your clients. Meaning, like, the more videos you give them, the more of an expense it is in terms of their time and effort to go get the end result. Whereas if you give the framework and say, this is how you do it, and hey, you can ask me questions whenever, like that's what they care about. That is what they care about. And
Oh,
so,
that's so true. That's so true. And there was another coach who said something that really stuck with me. And he said, like, you feel like, your student is climbing Mount Everest. You probably heard this analogy. They're climbing Mount Everest and you want to help them get to the top. And so, and you feel like, because you want them to feel like they've gotten their money's worth and all of that, you should, I'll tell them this and I'll tell them this. And you just keep, because you want to feel like you've fulfilled. And really all you're doing is adding weight that they've got to like continue to carry as they're trying to hoof it up Mount Everest. So I try to think about that when I'm thinking, should I put this in the members area or should I do a video on this? And I really dial back and I tell my students, like, I have one goal. I'm going to give you the things that you need to start getting leads, to start closing those leads, and to start putting some systems in place so that you can do this in fewer hours, right? Everything else is ancillary. Like, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about what blogs you should be posting, because that's not going to close a deal. Like, I want to give you the basics. And then once you start doing that, we can start talking about, oh, okay, adding a newsletter and this and that. Yeah. So throwing a bunch of stuff at them isn't necessarily helpful.
So I'm curious, like when you started to deliver your offer, deliver your pitch, when you had these sales calls coming in, what were the major objections that people came up with when you started to say, okay, this is what it is. Here's what you're going to get. Here's what I'm going to do for you. Are you in or out? Like, what were some of those initial objections that you got? Yeah,
so some of the objections that I got are kind of related specific to my industry. So I'm working with other attorneys, and it's possible that that an attorney comes in who's interested in adding estate planning as a practice area, but they don't know a lot about the substantive law. And I'm not really teaching that in my course, right? Because it varies by state and this and that. So I've had a few people who've said, I'm not ready to move forward because I actually don't know enough about the law yet, which makes total sense. And then, just, you have to understand too, that just not everyone that you get on the phone is going to be a good fit. I mean, I try to remind myself that not everyone is closing 100%. You can have a perfect offer and a perfect system that's worth every penny. And not everyone's going to say yes. But what I found is that the people who do say yes, the riches are in the niches, and they say that, and it's hard to accept that because you want to feel like you want to market to as many people as possible. But the people who have benefited the most from my program, and the people who I'm really excited about working with, are people who want exactly what I have to offer. And everyone else, it's fine if they don't want my system, because they're not going to be a good fit anyway. Yeah. Right. So yeah, so that, but I'm trying to think of the other objections that I've gotten. It's hard to say because people don't always tell you what the objection is. But I think, I've had a really good close rate. And I think at this point, I'm just more concerned with getting people in my program who are a good fit for the program, because you don't want a bunch of students in your program who've paid you that you kind of feel like, oh, this person's really not going to get out of it what I, you don't want to feel that way. You want to feel like the people in your program are the ones who are going to be able to implement and get the result.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great point. Out of curiosity, how have you found the difference to be working one-on-one with somebody versus in a group format? Do you enjoy working one-on-one? Are they easier clients in terms of fulfillment, or is the group program easier to fulfill, better experience for you? I know it's going to vary from person to person, but I always like asking that question because there's no some people prefer group, some people prefer one-on-one. What do you prefer?
I prefer the group format, and I really I figured this out pretty quickly, because the one-to-ones were messy. I'm not saying that the client didn't get what they were paying for, they didn't get results, but they were messy because I didn't know exactly what I was going to be teaching and how it was going to hit and land with my students, and that kind of made me uncomfortable. But I knew that I needed to go through it. Once I had done 10 attorneys one-to-one, so we're talking like 80-hour-long meetings with attorneys, I had a really good sense for what was going to go into my group course. And so now it's less about me learning from my students and more me saying, I know that these are the things that you need to know because I just worked with 10 people and I figured that out. And so the group content is more like me presenting And then we've got a group, we've got some people chatting amongst themselves or learning from each other. And then we've got, Friday Q&A, which we actually haven't started yet. My first one's tomorrow. I just started my group course this week. So I think the students actually do better in the group format. Having said that, I have gotten a couple of attorneys who are like, I just want you to teach me the whole thing, and I'm willing to pay you extra to have you to myself. And that's the way it's supposed to work. Wouldn't you agree?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Yeah.
100%. 100%. So how long do you think it'll take before your education business outperforms your law practice?
It almost already has, to be honest, which is saying a lot because I've got a 6 to 7 figure law practice. And the thing that's actually been slowing me down with my education business is that I'm still running the law practice. So that I've actually made transition pretty quickly because you can't do it all. And one of the reasons that I've said no to, one of the reasons I stopped running your Facebook ads was because I just couldn't handle the demand. And the reason I couldn't handle the demand was because I was busy running my law practice as well. Yep. So this has been a pleasant surprise because it kind of is the goal to focus totally on coaching.
Yeah, one of the things that you're going to figure out is that as you start to scale this, and if you decide to really scale your education business, your coaching practice, whatever that evolves into, like now you've got your early product champions. And as you start to scale this out, you're going to find that number one thing that you're going to want to start to replace yourself in is starting to put coaches in there who know your system, who know your business and can help educate other people. And guess where the best spot to find those coaches are? Within your coaching program. Like people who already know your stuff, who love your stuff and just want to be part of that. Like it's an amazing system. It's an amazing ecosystem. Once you built it and you build something great, it's like the people who love you, like they just want to support you. Like that's what I was talking about earlier with, your beta launch. It's like people really just want to, like, if they believe in you and they like you a lot, like, man, they're going to support the beta launch with, from the top of the rooftop, right? They're just going to shout your praises and really support it. And then there's going to be people who just want to stick around and would love to continue to support you and will love to continue to be part of your community. Every single member of my team, everyone that you worked with,
yeah,
they've all been former consulting clients of mine or former students of mine. And they're like, yeah, I love your stuff, Joel. I love power offers. I love, validating offers. And like, how can I help? It's like, all right, well, let's work together.
Let's work together. And you recognize that they have skills that you maybe don't have. I mean, this happened with a woman who didn't join my course. I went through the slide deck and she was like, I don't really need help with the leads. I don't need help with the automation, but I really need help with the close. And I said, fine, well, let's just work together for a couple of sessions. I'll teach you my process for closing. And we're working together these couple of sessions, and she is a rock star, like automation. Like I'm looking at her firm and the things that she's put in place, and I'm like, you're better at this than I am. Like I don't profess to be the expert. I'll teach what I know, but she's an attorney who is actually better at the automation than I am. And we've got a call set up for next week. I was like, why don't you come on to my team and help me coach these other lawyers? Like you're really, really good at this. I would rather pass it off on to you, Yep. And so I've got, I think, 2 people in my group where I'm like, you should join me because you've got a lot to offer and I can't do it all. And I wouldn't want to do it all because I'm not a specialist in it all.
Exactly. You have to just understand like what you're building is the ecosystem. Like you can lead people to the end result. And, the more you can remove yourself or just be the facilitator, like it doesn't have to all revolve around you. And that's a big misconception that people in the expert space make. They think it's all revolving around me. It's like, no, that's not necessarily true. If you build it that way, yes, it can revolve all around you, but that's not smart business. People don't really care. Like, yeah, they like following your content, but if you act as the facilitator and the person who created the system to drive in one specific direction, you can bring on other facilitators to help make that even better. And that's what, it's so hard to teach that unless you have gone through and experienced it. Like if I try to teach my audience that, they're, if they haven't even launched their coaching program yet or they're off or whatever, they're not going to get it. But like, you realize that that's why this business can be so lucrative and so effective is because very early on, like, especially if your stuff is good, like you're going to now build your team from within and they're going to love your stuff, bring them on and have them help contribute to make this even better.
Yeah, even better. And even it's all about making my students happy. And I'm thinking there to myself, I could teach this automation and I'll set up the stage and all of that, but this attorney's actually implementing it better than I am. My students are going to be better served if this attorney teaches them that portion. That's fine with me. It's all about making my students happy and giving them access to the best resources. So yeah, I was very surprised when that happened. And that was something that Matt pointed out as well on your team. He was like, you're going to get your best coaches from your students. And I was like, yes, that's already started happening. And I can't wait to start delegating some of this on to someone else.
So Laura, this has been amazing. So if somebody were kind of like on the fence or considering, launching their program or, working with us on, launching their offer, validating their offer, and they've just got some hesitancies, like what would be your advice to them based on what you've gone through now? And like, you've had incredible success for the first 30 days, your first 10 to 12 clients. I mean, already very quickly going to outpace your law practice when you can open up capacity again. Like, what would you advise to people who are listening right now? It's like, I don't know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, I get that it's scary. Like, this is way outside my comfort zone, despite the fact that it might appear that it's all, this is way outside my comfort zone. But I would say, we don't grow unless we go outside our comfort zone, and the rewards are endless. And then just from a practical standpoint, the reason I'm working with you is because I really liked that first offer that you had, which was, for a fee, we'll help you develop your power offer, I think is what it was. The game plan, is that what it was?
Yep.
Yeah, and I worked with Jason on that, and kudos to Jason, because we had a couple of amazing sessions, and what I paid for that was worth every penny, because if you can't validate your offer and really drill down on what it is that you're helping people with, then nothing else is going to work. Mm-hmm. So just start with that. That in and of itself is an amazing investment. That was the best money I ever spent. It really was. Yep. So I'm kind of mad that Jason's not going to be at Funnel Hackers Live, because I was hoping to say hi to him, but I know he lives in a different country. So yeah, just start with that power offer. You have to build the blocks. Each step is simple, but if you go in the wrong order, you don't get one step done the right way, then nothing else is going to work after. So start with that power offer package that you have.
Yeah. It's the starting point, it really is. It's like, if you can't get the lead flow coming in, if you can't get people to raise their hand based on that first initial offer, it's like, don't create content, don't create a blog, don't post on social media, don't try and beg people to come in, because ultimately you're going to have to give them that offer. You want them to be able, you want to make sure that they're going to say yes to that before you put any marketing in front of it. And so I love it. Well, Laura,
so much of it is in the copy. And let me just stop and say that as well. The copy is so important, and I'm not a professional copywriter. So that was kind of how Jason helped as well. Like, I was like, his copy is so good. I could have never done this on my own.
It's an expert's curse. I need to hire copy consultants too. Like, we think that we're all just like God's gift to whatever specialty it is. And it's like, even though we're marketing, consultants, and we're offer creators and offer experts, like, even when I create my own stuff, like, I'm too close to it. I have to have other people come in and look at it from the outside, make sure that it sounds great, that it sounds compelling, because usually what I put on paper for my own stuff is just word vomit. And it's like, oh wow, I use a lot of techno babble. Like, my engineering background comes out when I write my own copy. It's like, that's why you need to have a consultant to look at it from the outside. It's like, oh, Laura, like, you do amazing stuff, but you're not explaining it the right way. Like, what you're trying to say sounds nothing like what you actually do for your clients. And so you're 100% right. And so I'm glad that you see the value in that. And I'm glad that the results have paid off.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Can't wait to build it. I mean, it's very, very new. So I'm taking it slowly, because you don't want to scale up before you're ready. But I think we're going to start running the ads again and start enrolling people for our second group coaching cohort. So it's very exciting.
So before we wrap up, what's next? Like, what do the next 2 or 3 steps look like for you?
Yeah, so I think I'm going to enroll people in another group coaching cohort, try to get 20 to 40 people, tweak the content for the group course based on what I'm doing with this first course. And then I think next I'm going to start to hire a closer. Mm-hmm. Because I really need to, I think the next step makes it's hard for me to let go of that, because I feel like I'm really good at that. But I know that I'm not going to be able to grow if I'm doing sales calls every day, all day. So the next step is hiring a closer. And I think that your team is helping me with that as well. So
yeah. So keep an eye out inside of your group, right? Because you might find actually some rock star closers who like go through the program and like they get results, but then there are some people who like this happens. It's so funny. Like this is just kind of a secret that I'll reveal here on the podcast. But like as you grow your audience, like you'll help people and they might get amazing results, but they might just decide like, hey, I don't really want to build a law practice anymore, but I really like what Laura's doing. I like closing, like I like selling. I've already gone through her program. I know exactly what it's all about. Hey, maybe I'll just, take her calls for her. Like just keep your options open within your group. Like you can find almost any position for within the ecosystem that you're building, even the leads list. Like don't
Yeah.
so just keep nurturing that list now that you're building, and keep your eyes peeled for any position that you need moving forward. Just kind of like seed it out in your group and say, hey, listen, I'm looking for this type of person. Do you know of anyone? And you might get some people who raise their hand and be like, hey, I'm interested. I like what you're doing and I want to help. So just keep that in mind.
Good tip. Thank you.
Awesome. Laura, it's been great to thank you for sharing your story. It is really exciting to see your success, really exciting to see where you were going. I can't wait to see you do some big, incredible things. And for everyone else, thanks for tuning in. If you're interested in getting our help to do what we did for Laura, head over to thewebinaragency.com and we can talk about possibly doing a game plan for you, possibly replicating your results that Laura has gotten. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.